Hello, and welcome to the Christmas special of MSV Movie Mania, where we take some of the most critically acclaimed and not so critically acclaimed films, new or old, whether they are blockbusters or box office flops, and make it our job to question as much as we can about them. I'm your host, Ricky Costa.
I'm your other host, Alex Plumacher.
And this week, in anticipation of the upcoming film Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, we'll be discussing the entire Star Wars saga, although we might scrutinize the prequel trilogy a bit more than we should.
Just a little bit. Okay, so Ricky, let's start off with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is, it's basically, the background story is Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi are sent to negotiate with the Trade Federation. Their negotiations quickly fall apart, and the blockade the Trade Federation surrounded the planet of Naboo with becomes an invasion force. While trying to send word back to the Republic, the two Jedi Knights meet a child, Anakin Skywalker, who is believed to be the Chosen One. The Jedi must prevent an all-out war between the Trade Federation and the Republic, while also searching for a possible Sith connection to the transpiring events. So Ricky, what do you think of it?
Well, as a kid, I loved this film. I mean, it was Star Wars. It wasn't. When I was a kid, there was nothing. I like plot, dialogue, character development. That didn't mean anything to me.
See a lightsaber, it's like boom.
Exactly. I love this film. As an adult, looking back,
Not so much.
I want to like it because it's Star Wars. I used to wonder, why does nobody like this film? Everyone always hates it. I don't understand why. I get it now.
You get it?
I get it now.
Yeah, it wasn't too exciting.
No, you spend a half hour doing nothing, then go somewhere else, spend a half hour doing another half hour.
You ever think it took itself a little bit too seriously?
Well, I think in some parts, in other parts, it didn't take itself seriously enough. With Jar Jar Binks.
We'll talk about Jar Jar Binks later.
Yeah, you have your theory, but
Oh,
okay. Yeah, I think it kind of. You think it let down the fans back in '99,
Definitely.
or just in general, it let down fans?
It let down all fans. It's still letting down fans because we still remember it.
I don't know. On the one hand, this was the first Star Wars movie in 16 years, so.
That's the issue, though.
So maybe you can blame it to overhyping, but then looking back, it's not that great on its own.
You know what it is? Because George Lucas dropped the special editions 2 years earlier. People remembered the original trilogy and how great it was, even with George Lucas's little mix-ups in there. And then when they got The Phantom Menace, they wanted an original trilogy level film, which we should get, and then we got that.
Yeah,
I don't really know what to call it.
I mean, I think a lot of people are saying that George Lucas. There's this quote from this documentary filmmaker. I mean, a thing about Star Wars prequels, and he said that George Lucas he creates all these amazing things, but then doesn't understand what it is about these things that we love so much. And I think with Episode 1, he took away. He didn't really add any new beloved characters or compelling plot points or witty dialogue. Instead, he overfilled it with this childish need almost to add as much visual effects in each shot as possible.
And you were telling me the other day, George Lucas had a quote that was along the lines of CGI, like if you have too many effects but not enough story, then...
He said in the 70s that, visual effects are only a means of telling a story. A bad movie with good visual effects is still a bad movie. Or I honestly, second part I forget. I don't think that's what he actually said. But I think now, 30 years later, you can see he's a bit of a hypocrite. Because now he went down that path. He made a rushed movie with great visual effects.
Yeah. All right, so what about the cast? Let me start off. Let me start off with the low point. Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker.
On the one hand, I feel like it's wrong to insult a 10-year-old about his acting, but no, he was awful.
God awful.
He was terrible. I mean, child actors, and there are only a handful of great child actors out there, but this isn't one of them. Oh my God, he was so bad.
He was. I mean, they could have gotten. There's plenty of child actors from the '90s who were great, and then they picked the worst one.
he couldn't act at all. It was painful to watch.
I mean, they could have gone with the kid from Jerry Maguire. He was great.
Hey, the kid from Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin.
He might have been a little old at this point.
Still would have been better than. Okay, true, yeah, but still would have been better.
Yeah.
Rewrite, make him teenager. I don't care.
All right. So the rest of the cast, and the fact that there's
They're not giving anything to do. I mean, that's a good cast. Liam Neeson, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Samuel Jackson. All there's some returning people from the original trilogy, but they're not giving anything to do.
thing is, there's no chemistry between any of the
Oh,
actors.
no. It's also, I think if you watch the special features, you see that George Lucas didn't really want to make these films. He did it, they were like a burden to him. He only wanted to make them so the story can be told his way. And I think this, if you watch the films, there's watch the special effects, there's a clear lack of passion on his part. And I think that lack of passion shows in the prequel films.
Now, the choreography for the fight scenes really upped the ante in the prequels.
It was. I mean, the fight scenes is sort of a hit or miss because on the one hand, yes, the choreography is pretty breathtaking in the final battle. However, what's missing is the compelling characters and compelling stories from the originals. Like in all the original trilogy fights, yeah, they were slower, like especially the Obi-Wan Vader fight in Episode 4, but at least those had a lot going under the surface. Master and apprentice being reunited 20 years later. And Luke fighting Vader, even though he's terrified, and Vader's kind of toying with him. Even Luke fighting his father in Episode 6. In this movie, you have nothing. You have two Jedi we really don't care about, fighting a Sith we know nothing about. And yes, the choreography is breathtaking at times, but overall, it's very flat because there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on under the surface.
So you're not gonna go with the fact that it wasn't a great fight scene in the end, but the fact that we didn't know any of the characters, because we knew them, we didn't care about them.
Exactly.
So that's your issue.
No, I guess you can call it a great fight scene. I mean, like, even when, spoiler alert, even when Darth Maul, no, everyone's seen Star Wars.
I think the spoiler alerts are kind of out the window for Star Wars.
Yeah. Even when just start over. I think what problem with the fight, like even when Darth Maul kills Qui-Gon, then Obi-Wan finally gets to face an Avengers Master. Even then, Obi-Wan's filled with rage, he's angry, and even then, it's like really choreographed fighting. And I think opposed to Episode 6, when Luke gets really mad at Vader, and he's just wailing at him,
Well, the choreography you can blame on the guy that played Darth Maul. He was actually like a martial arts expert. And he was actually the guy like advising everyone on set on how to fight.
Well, that's George Lucas' job as a director.
This is true. So,
Alex, what do you think of midichlorians?
am I allowed to walk off set?
Sure, go ahead.
Midichlorians was the second worst thing about The Phantom Menace.
The first being Jake Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd being the first. I mean, they took everything about what they said about the Force in the original trilogy, how it's this spiritual thing that flows through everything.
Yeah, like Yoda says, it surrounds us, penetrates us, gives us strength.
And then it becomes biological. It's like
The midichlorian count.
You have a high midichlorian count. You're awesome.
That mean, yeah, you have high midichlorian count. It means you agree with the Force. Oh my god! And you notice how?
It became completely biological.
Yeah, but you notice how in episodes 2 and 3, it's never mentioned once. Actually,
Yeah.
I think once in 3, but overall, like
Lucas got a lot of heat for that.
Yeah, so he was too embarrassed to bring it back.
You know-
But that was a very poorly calculated
It's just,
decision.
it really bothers me. They went from completely spiritual to this biological spiritual hybrid.
That was a big mistake on his part.
Mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Excuse me, midichlorian's the powerhouse of the cell.
I think the biggest problem with the Phantom Menace was, I think the characters, the flat characters, opposed to the beloved ones from the originals. I think the second biggest problem was the writing. the way everything felt rushed, and honestly, it felt like it was written in one draft. Like how the way the plot points don't really come together and they contradict each other. It's so uneven. I felt like if George Lucas put more time into it, you'll have a more compelling plot. The same goes for the characters. Like for example, the main plot of the film is Palpatine, who's secretly the Darth Sidious. He wants to start a crisis on Naboo as Darth Sidious so that he can, as Palpatine, dethrone Chancellor Valorum and get himself elected Chancellor. But then, as alter ego Darth Sidious, he gives out orders that totally contradict his master plan, like killing the Jedi, cutting communication with the planet, and making them make Padme sign a treaty that makes the invasion legal. That all doesn't get word out, and does the opposite, and therefore contradicts his master plan. I think like George Lucas, he has a very limited mental focus. He's just focused on what makes a good scene. Oh, they've got her. Let's make him sign a treaty, even though he doesn't realize that contradicts his plot. And the Trade Federation guys decide to kill Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon because the droid thinks they might be Jedi. That doesn't make sense. Qui-Gon wants to go down to the planet with the droid army to warn Naboo about the invasion, although it might be too late by that point, seeing how they are going down with the invading army to warn them about the invading army. Why did the Trade Federation have this massive army in the first place? I don't get that. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, once they get down there, they decide to split up, which is stupid because it increases their chances of getting caught by 100%. It means they'll be alone if they run into trouble, and creates the risk of getting separated by hundreds, if not thousands of miles by not knowing where the other ship is going. But unfortunately, they wind up pretty much the same place. They have to go through the planet, then they have to go through the planet core in the water, which means that they have to get to Naboo City, which is on the other side of the planet, which makes you question why the droids landed on the other side of the planet from where they need to be.
Surprise.
Why didn't they land? They have to get to the Naboo City, so why didn't they land anywhere other than the giant field of grass surrounding the city? They have this blockade above Naboo, which creates a huge crisis. They say that people are starving. Later, they get the Queen, go to Tatooine because the ship breaks down, need to part. So they meet the guy Watto. Watto tells them he's the only one in Tatooine who has the part they need. Even though Qui-Gon acknowledged him right before they go into Watto's shop that it's one of the smaller ones in town, implying they're bigger shops that might have the part they need. Or they can build a smaller but functional ship to get them to Coruscant. Or just use a go into a store, use a Jedi mind trick to trade your public credits for a form of currency that Watto will accept. Or why does not try another store at all for the part you need because Watto is bluffing? Why not Tatooine? They had a hugely wasted opportunity to start developing the Obi-Wan Anakin relationship early on. I think Obi-Wan should have been the adventurous one who discovered Anakin, like he said in Episode 6. Because being close to him, he could have become close to him and wanted to train him himself. It just felt a wasted opportunity. I could have made the end of Episode 3 all the more emotional, seeing how they knew each other since they were kids. Anyway, they get back to Coruscant. Chancellor Valorum requests a committee to be sent down to Naboo to see if Padme is telling the truth about the invasion, even though he has a word of 2 Jedi, who he trusted to investigate the situation in the first place. And then later, for no reason, they send Qui-Gon back to Naboo alone to discover who the Sith is himself. I thought you guys were doing that. What do you guys have to do? They just sit around. Send at least one other guy with them. Anyway, they get back to Naboo. They're planning to have a big fight with the Gungans distracting the army. Then they have to storm into the castle, capture the Viceroy, while the ships go into space to take out the command ship, shut down the droids. Oh, that's the only thing they need to do. Shut down the droids. Then the other 2 ones could have been skipped entirely. One last thing I want to bring up. Notice how at the end, Yoda promotes Obi-Wan the Jedi Knight, even though when you open credits, opening crawl, it says he's already Jedi Knight.
Jedi Knights.
Yeah. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant there, but, All right,
All right,
so
so Ricky, you seem to have some very strong opinions about episode 1, so to calm you down, let's move on to episode 2, okay? So basically, in episode 2, it's 10 years after the events of The Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan Kenobi and his now Jedi Padawan Anakin Skywalker must protect Senator Padme Amidala, who used to be the queen, from assassination attempts. The two Jedi have to split up and protect the senator while also investigating who was behind the attempts on her life.
Alex, what do you think of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones?
I have a better view of it than Phantom Menace.
I agree it was a marked improvement.
Yeah, it was definitely still slow and focused too much on the whole politics thing, but it was much more enjoyable.
The plot was much better. The writing was better. Well, the plot was better, not the writing.
The plot was slow
It was
up
it
until
was
towards
slow.
the end.
Yeah. It had some great action scenes.
I mean, it introduced Count Dooku, so there's that. He was a cool bad guy.
Yeah, he was all right. I mean,
He is-
I love Christopher Lee. The character, he's all right.
Rest in peace, Christopher Lee.
Oh,
But,
absolutely. I
I
love
mean,
that guy.
Count Dooku, he was introduced, but he never really gets an intro.
The first time you see him, he's walking down the hallway with some other guys.
It's just like, hey, Count Dooku's here now. Ta-da. And then
They have a one thing Obi-Wan's trying to follow, hunt down the clones. There's this big conspiracy going on. Like there's a clone, some Jedi over. Well, you know what you're talking about. There's a Jedi who, it's unclear.
some
because it's a
Jedi who
mystery.
died like a decade ago
It's unclear because
orders
it's a
the
mystery.
creation of the clone army
Yeah.
off of the DNA of this bounty hunter who was directly working with the enemy. And then the Republic is like, oh yeah, we'll use him as our main army. Nothing bad could possibly happen.
My problem is that storyline got dropped halfway through. It was never mentioned again. We never find out who was behind all this.
It did. They just kind of accept like, oh yeah, we got a clone army now. Not sketchy at all.
But no, the big mystery that's going around, they completely drop it.
Yeah, they never
They're
mentioned.
building up, then it's just like, oh yeah,
They never mentioned the Jedi again.
lightsabers. What?
Like they make it seem like Count Dooku was the Jedi who disappeared and then came back as the Sith
right.
and created the clones. But then you look it up and he's not. So it's just a completely dropped storyline.
Early in the film, Sam Jackson, Mace Windu, he says that Padme thinks it might be Count Dooku, so he says, no, he used to be a Jedi. He couldn't hurt anyone. He used to be a Jedi. Something happened to made him go rogue. How can you say for any level of certainty that he's not the one behind this? You haven't seen him in 10 years, at least.
Okay, so let's get this garbage out of the way right now.
Okay, let's get this over with.
The god-awful love story between Anakin and
Oh,
Padme. I see you're disgusted now.
I hate those scenes. They bore me to tears.
Ricky, what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, you know what, Alex? I hate sand. It's coarse and it's rough. Oh, it gets everywhere. I'm much rather think about Padme. All right, it was awful.
Ugh.
Padme, I've been dreaming about you every day for 10 years. He actually says that.
He did, and it's not creepy at all. Right?
And then, they kiss, and then they have the fireside chat, and he's like, I am hunted by the kiss you should have never given me. It clings to my soul. Like, what the heck? I mean, I get you're a Jedi in training, and you have very little experience with talking to girls, but oh my God, shut up, dude. Even you have to know how bad this is coming across.
You're very entertaining today, Ricky.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah, the love story was awful. So mostly half the reason because of the dialogue.
Oh, God.
Alex? Okay, the
Let's just
worst
read it.
part of, speaking of the love story, the worst part of episode 2 is hands down Hayden Christensen, who, for those of you who don't know, plays Anakin Skywalker, lead.
Basically, every role he played before this was just this whiny teenager who wouldn't get what he wants. And then that's all he brings into Anakin Skywalker.
Some people argue that the whining was partly in reference to how his later son Luke is always whining episode 4. But if that's the case, then they really overshot it because he spends the whole movie whining about everything. And aside from that, he's just awful. It's some of the worst acting I've ever seen. Like, it's bad when you genuinely cannot figure out the guy's emotional state. Like, when he just mumbles every line of dialogue in the same exact tone, and I can't tell what the guy's feeling.
Yeah, and you could tell it's not going to go well when his first line in the entire movie is him complaining. Right off the bat.
because there's a scene when him and Padme go to the droid factory, and she has some quip about I don't follow your orders anymore, and he's like, don't worry, I've given up trying to give you orders. Like, I can't tell if that's sarcasm or he's being trying to be funny, trying to be serious. I can't tell. Oh my God.
Alright, so let's
Get off. Can we get off subject,
let's make this
please?
much more exciting and not
Yeah.
irritating. Let's talk about the Battle of Geonosis towards the end of the film.
That was great. I love about Geonosis.
It's weird that that entire thing is all CGI, and it looks really good for 2002.
Yeah. Well, you see 50 Jedi fighting one time. Where were those guys when
No,
Qui-Gon
that's
needed
real.
help?
But all the shots that have like a ton of clones in them,
Oh, later on. I was
that's
talking
all
about the arena
CGI.
battle.
Oh, the arena battle we could go on forever.
Oh
about.
yeah, no, yes, you're right. The clones, yeah. George Lucas, he was so obsessed with visual effects. He had every clone as a visual effects, and I think that's a lot of the things where people complain about with the prequels. Everything is green screen.
Well, with the clones, you can't really tell that they're CGI.
True.
They did a
but-
really good job with them.
All right, fine, but why would? All right, the whole Geonosis part was great. The Count Dooku fight was great. The gunship chase, definitely arena battle. I think my favorite scene in the movie might actually be before that, right outside Geonosis, the asteroid chase between Obi-Wan and the Fets.
was good.
It's just visually, I thought it was such a cool scene. Like particularly when they do the I think explosive charges or something, cosmic. It's like the big blue circle spreading around, crushing everything. The sound and look of that was just awesome. And I think that might be my favorite. That and the whole Geonosis part, my favorite scene in the movie.
What I liked about the Geonosis scenes is like right in the middle, they hint at the fact that the Sith are already working on building the Death Star.
Yes, that was great. That was a very good part.
It was a good little nod, but then you have to think back to Episode 6, which is only what, like 5 years after the original Death Star gets destroyed.
4.
Yeah, in 4 they destroy the original, and then in 6.
No, 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so it took what, 20-something years to build the first one, and then they build an even bigger one in 4 years.
I don't know. I mean,
Continuity. That's an issue for me.
yeah, but that was some good nods. You see, Count Dooku has the little Death Star hologram. I'll take these as my master.
Yeah.
That was another very epic scene. Yoda pulling out his lightsaber.
That was great.
People argue that, I mean, he contradicts the point of Yoda, the fact that he has to, the point of Yoda is that he's small and powerful. He doesn't need to be big to be powerful, but as a lightsaber, he was jumping around to compensate for his size. But to them, I say, oh, I don't care. That seems epic.
Now, I know one thing that pissed the fans off a little bit more than some of the fans with Yoda and a lightsaber was that R2-D2 can all of a sudden fly in this one.
I didn't have a problem with that.
You didn't have a
That was
problem?
fine.
You were fine with that.
Yeah. It was a nice little fun, made for a fun little action scene.
Interesting. All right, so let's get towards the end of episode. Let's wrap this one up. One last scene I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, sure.
The scene where Anakin goes to rescue his mom from the Sand People.
Oh, it's been great acting in that scene.
Some of the best.
His face after she dies. Oh my God, that was awful. All right.
But then you mentioned they got Liam Neeson as
He
a
came
background
back-
voice.
They got him to come in for a 5-second voice cameo. Like, what was that about? Why?
Well, it's when Anakin's turned into the dark side and he starts chopping down all the Sand People that killed his mom.
you hear Qui-Gon yell, no, Anakin, no, like faintly. Like people say, like Liam Neeson in a cameo episode 2. I was like, where? I didn't see that. And then I look it up and like, wow, mind blown.
You know what's interesting though? When he tells Padme that he killed all of them, he just kind of glosses over that after that scene. Like that never becomes an issue for her that he killed an entire village of people.
Men, women, and children.
He admits
too.
killing children, and she's just like, "Oh well, we gotta move the plot forward, Anakin. So let's just get past this."
What I love about that scene is just the acting. I killed them, the women, the children. Yeah, it was just awful. What I do like about the scene is it's all in the room where Luke is when he meets R2 and 3PO. The whole set's like that, and I like that. All right, that's all I have to say about episode 2.
All right,
You,
so
Alex?
I'm just gonna leave it with better than Phantom Menace. Let's move on to
Much
episode
better.
3.
Still has problems, but it was a marked improvement. With the Clone Wars ravaging the galaxy, the Jedi Order is leading the charge against the Separatists. Anakin Skywalker, now haunted by visions of his wife's death, slowly turns to the dark side and becomes the very thing he was trained to defeat. Alex, what do you think of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith?
This is how the first 2 movies in the prequel trilogy should have gone.
I know, right?
This was original trilogy level.
It was.
Fantastic.
It was fantastic. I love this movie. What I think this film's famous for is its dark tone, which is half the reason I think it's so great. But I think this film, it's really dark because things get really bad for the characters. Things get really bad and just keep getting worse and worse and worse, and there's no happy ending in sight. The bad guys win, and you will never see a movie, or at least a big blockbuster movie like that again. Yeah, you would never see a big blockbuster movie like that again. The way, unless it's like a 2-part movie with like part 2 coming out next month. But it's, sorry, I just got distracted.
You're good.
All right, well, let's take from there. Yeah, no, I think the this hopelessness you feel throughout the film, like it's no resolution. I think that's like half the reason why this film's so great. It's just
It was a much more mature story
Oh, absolutely.
than the first 2. Like, this is the one where George Lucas finally figured out how to balance the tone of a modern Star Wars film with the background of the original trilogy.
Absolutely, and he did a great job, both with the plot and as director. There was some very well directed scenes in this. I think, where was this George Lucas in 1999 or 2002?
On vacation.
I mean, better. This was his twin brother directing. Better late than never, but still a little late. But no, I think honestly, I think Episode 3 is a very underrated movie. Maybe like the one of the best movies of the 2000s.
You think Hayden Christensen got any better?
I did. He's still an actor I have very little respect for, but his acting was an improvement up in Episode 2, which is a lot less whining.
This is true.
As we mentioned, that it was a much darker tone, including a scene when he unfortunately murders a room full of small children.
I mean, he already did it in the second episode, so...
I mean, they're cute. They're not the same people this time.
Yeah, this one they actually mention and have repercussions for.
I think everyone was pretty shocked by that.
But, sand people don't matter. Hashtag sand lives matter. When Anakin does kill all the little kids training to be Jedi, I went to go see this movie with my brother.
Right.
Back when it came out in 2005. So I was 10. The whole scene was like freaking me out. And then my brother, when we left the theater, he was like, I'm amazed that actually made it into the final cut, because that was way farther than we expected anything to go.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that's another thing you won't see again in movies, but for totally different reasons. But no, what was your favorite scene of Episode 3?
My favorite scene is a scene where there's basically no action going on whatsoever.
Right.
It's when the Chancellor calls Anakin to the concert hall that he's at. He's watching that weird, the big orb thing.
Space concerts don't involve singing; they involve big bubbles.
And he's talking to Anakin about some of the stuff he's been worrying about, some of the stuff Anakin's been worrying about, regarding the war and his personal life. And then Palpatine slowly starts to hint that he knows what's going on with Anakin and Padme a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Anakin starts to crack a little bit, and Palpatine's grip starts to get tighter on him. And finally, when he has Anakin 100% concentrated on what he's saying, and he knows that he has to do something to save Padme, Palpatine looks at me and says, "You can't learn this from a Jedi."
That was a great scene.
Which sparks his interest and is the point where he starts to break away from the Jedi.
Absolutely, it was a great scene, and the whole time I got the feel of like Adam and Eve, the snake whispering in their ears, like, because that ultimately is what Palpatine is. He's the devil, or at least in the first 6 films.
Yeah.
I think one of the better parts of the prequel trilogy was Palpatine's plan, how very well developed that was. It'll take a while to lay out, but ultimately, in all 3 films, they're like parts of the plan. It's like one consecutive thing, and it's very Palpatine's master plan from 1 to 3 is very well played, very intelligent.
So let's talk about the assault on the Jedi Temple
Right.
and the Order 66 montage that goes along with that.
That's when it first starts
It's-
getting really dark.
That's when you see all the Jedi that you've met in like the council chambers, and they've had a couple lines in it.
In the whole trilogy.
In the whole trilogy, you sort of care about them because they're not nameless Jedi
True.
like
true.
a lot of the ones that were in the Jedi Temple assault.
Yeah.
You see all of them get gunned down by their clone troopers.
I think one very great scene is the first guy got the weird head. He's
Yeah.
he's running. Some troopers behind him.
Turns around.
The troopers stop, point their guns. He turns around. He doesn't even say a word. He just shakes his head in disbelief, and they gun him down.
And it's the middle of the fight too, and they just turn on the Jedi.
It was that's such a great scene.
The music really made it.
Oh, John Williams. He makes everything so much better. God bless John Williams. But that was a great. That's when it first starts. That's when things start just completely falling apart, crumbling like the Jedi Order. It was a great scene.
So both of these scenes are followed up pretty closely by the fight that a lot of people wanted between Darth Sidious and Yoda,
Right.
which I
right.
know you loved.
Oh, that's the fight I was waiting for. Like everyone's saying, Anakin and Obi-Wan, like, oh, this is the fight we've all been waiting for. Like, no, we've seen them fight already. And 30 years ago, I want to see Yoda and the Emperor, the leader of the Jedi versus leader of Sith. I waited years to see them go head to head, and they finally did. That was a great scene.
And then they're fighting in not the council chambers, the Senate chambers,
Right, where all the meetings are held.
the center of the Galactic Republic, and both sides, they both represent the Sith as a whole and the Jedi as a whole, and they're both just tearing the Republic apart,
Physically, yeah.
physically and metaphorically. It's just crumbling.
The shot of them, the platform lifting them into the building, especially John, I think that's one of my favorite shots of the saga. And especially with John Williams' music, such an epic shot. And I think you're right. It's a metaphor. Like Palpatine, he just starts taking all the pods the senators send on, and just starts throwing them at Yoda. And I think that's the point that the Republic has fallen. These are meaningless now. And I think it's a great action scene with Duel of the Fates, my favorite Star Wars song. When we're in the theaters and you start hearing da-da-da, like I got so excited. My favorite song. Anyway, no, but no, it's a metaphor, just great action scene, a metaphor of how the Republic's meaningless now. These pods mean nothing anymore. I think shortly before that, one of the other best scenes of the film is Obi-Wan confronts Padme about Anakin, unknowing that they're married. But he says, Anakin's turned to the dark side. She
Kills all these kids.
Yeah, she's like in denial, but she's in tears. He starts tearing up a bit too. Tells him about the younglings. It's great. It's already a great scene. It's John Williams' great music in the background, and all right. So then he starts to leave, and she acknowledges he has to kill him, and he doesn't deny it. And so he starts to leave because she won't help him. Then he stops, turns around, looks to her, and says, like, "Anakin's the father, isn't he?" And like, wow, that is such a powerful moment.
I don't mean to take away from the seriousness of this scene, but it's funny how this time around Padme cares that Anakin killed a bunch of kids, but not the last time around. Padme is racist.
Moving on.
I did like how it sets up for episode 4.
I did, yeah. Notice how the last lines of episode 3 and the first lines of episode 4 are both C-3PO in that white hallway expressing danger. But overall, it felt like it's leading up to the next sequel, even though it's film that already happened.
I
watched them back to back once, and it felt like just episode 4 felt like the sequel.
Yeah, I love the last shot of episode 3
Yeah.
where it's Obi-Wan just looking at the sunset just like Luke did.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, that was great.
what, 20 years earlier at this point?
Because this was supposed to be the last Star Wars movie. It brought everything full circle. And yeah, it did a great job at wrapping things up and bringing everything full circle.
All right, Ricky, let's rate each film
All right.
so far.
All
What do
right,
you got for
Star
episode
Wars
1?
Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, out of 10.
6. You gotta give it credit for being a Star Wars film.
5. I was going to say 4, but now I say 5.
So 5.5.
Yeah, 5, which is mediocre.
All right. Episode 2.
Ah, what the heck, 7.
7. All right. I'll give it a 7.
All right, 7 out of 10.
It's better.
I was going to give it a 6, but yeah, okay, a 7.
You can't put it on the same level as Phantom Menace.
No, no.
Episode 3.
10 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Because there's still Hayden Christensen in there.
All right, so that equals to a 9.5 out of 10.
All right. So,
All right, so episode 1 is mediocre, episode 2 is good at 7 out of 10, episode 3 is great, 9.5 out of 10.
all right. That
We're gonna
about
ta-
wraps up the prequel trilogy.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to go into the original trilogy.
All right, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Star Wars Christmas special of MSV Movie Mania. I'm still your host, Alex.
And I'm still your host, Ricky. Still.
All right.
I like that word in this.
Still?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the original trilogy.
Okay, starting with the original Star Wars, which is now called Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. It used to just be called Star Wars. 19 years after the fall of the Old Republic and the rise of the Empire, the Rebel Alliance steals the secret Death Star plans. The plans find their way to Luke Skywalker via droids R2-D2 and C-3PO. Luke meets an old Obi-Wan Kenobi who trains him in the ways of the Force. Luke, along with his new friends Han Solo and Princess Leia, must escape the Death Star and prevent the destruction of the Rebel Alliance. Alex, what do you think of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope?
One of the greatest films ever made, hands down.
Really interesting. No, I'm
Absolutely.
kidding. This really is one of the greatest movies
I
ever.
mean, this movie changed the way Hollywood makes films.
Absolutely. I remember watching this with my dad once when it was on TV, and he was telling me, like, he saw it in theaters with his dad back in '77, and he told me, like, there was nothing like this before at all. Like, he's like, this was so new.
I mean, even today, people love it.
Oh, God, yeah. It's just one of the best, this is considered to be one of the best movies ever. This movie, it did everything right. It had engaging, extremely original, and very fast-paced script. Beloved characters who became some of the most beloved characters of all time. Great acting, great directing, very exciting directing, and amazing musical score from John Williams.
Like, even now, I'm rewatching them with Maya because she has to see them before we get to episode 7.
Right.
I'm still, like, having so much respect for the plot.
Absolutely.
Like, for some people, how quick it goes, it could be mistaken for, lack of plot, but it's really meant to show the urgency of the situation.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very fast-paced. I mean, yeah, they used to spend a lot of time in the Death Star, but that's all good stuff, you know?
The very first shot is an action scene.
Absolutely. Lucas really represents the details of the conflict in one shot. And honestly, there's nothing to complain about it. It changed, visual effects and action scenes, but it also, I think, it was much more than that. This, like Lucas said back in the day, this wasn't visual effects only means of telling a story, and it was a great story with unforgettable characters. And great visual effects alone wouldn't have made this one of the best movies of all time. This movie, being all the great things it is, make it the best movie of all time.
It's like what George Lucas said. You can't just have special effects without story, or otherwise you just have a bad film.
This is what I just said 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. Really?
I just said that.
I might have zoned out a little bit. Anyway,
Let's make one thing clear about the original versus the special editions, which we will get into later.
Yes.
Han shot first?
For those of you who don't know, every time these films get re-released on video, DVD, Blu-ray, George Lucas constantly tweaks everything, makes changes, including the iconic. Everyone's seen this movie like iconic, but it's including the bar scene where Han shoots the bounty hunter Greedo. Now his justification for changing it was, Han eventually becomes a husband and maybe someday a family man. Like, you can't have him be a murderer. I don't agree with that, but.
Now, one thing, we'll get into the special editions later, but one thing I
Absolutely.
forgot to mention before is that this movie inspired a whole generation of filmmakers.
Absolutely. It was filmed by everyone. And now those filmmakers are getting the chance to make new Star Wars films. It's not a George
Like
Lucas
even the
anymore.
special effects, without Star Wars, I don't think we would see these CGI-filled either masterpieces or just absolute garbage like Transformers. We wouldn't see films like this without Star Wars. It completely redesigned Hollywood.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. It was visually amazing and had a great script and great characters.
Now, don't get me wrong, I do have very high praise for this film, but I do have one issue.
With the original,
You know
the
you're
original. Is
you
the
know
one that
you're
carried over.
you're making fun of Star Wars, the original now.
No, I'm criticizing Star Wars. There's a difference. This is what we do on this show, Ricky.
So you do.
It's my job. So the Death Star's one weakness is this.
One little ventilation port that leads directly down to the core, which will blow up the whole station. You don't want to put like a little door that will open up when it needs to be vented and then close when it's not.
All right. Is that dumb? That's arguable. Do I care? No.
You know what could have prevented the whole Death Star being blown to pieces?
Well,
Just put a turn in the pipe that leads down, and everything would be fine. Empire would have won.
yeah. Well, honestly, oh, man. Well, that scene, that finale is so great.
Oh, it's-
Epic.
Fantastic, but it,
Uh,
it just seems too easy.
No, it's not easy. They have to go through. It's not easy. They're in the trench. It wasn't easy for them.
I'm not going to win this one, am I?
No, it's
Alright.
Star Wars. But overall, one of the best movies of all time.
Well, we've gotten to the end of episode 4, so we might as well move on to 5, right?
Yeah.
All right, Empire Strikes Back. Ricky, take it away.
3 years after blowing up the Death Star, the Rebel Alliance has relocated to the ice world Hoth, where they are ambushed by Imperial forces. Luke Skywalker goes to Dagobah to train under Jedi Master Yoda, while the rest of the Rebel Alliance goes into hiding. Meanwhile, Han Solo and the others are captured by the Empire in Cloud City. Luke must cut his training short to rescue his friends and confront Darth Vader. Alex, what do you think of Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back?
Well, this is my favorite Star Wars film out of all of them, hands down.
It was so much darker than I think anyone expected it to be.
Well, I think Episode 3 blew it out of the water in terms of darkness.
Episode 3 wasn't around yet. Episode 5, after A New Hope came out,
All right, it was,
so much darker.
for the time, it was darker than we used to blockbusters. I think what makes this film great is, yeah, it's darker. It's also a lot more personal.
It is slowed down. It
Notice how
focuses much more on characters.
Yeah, well, I think I think the term I would use is scaled down. It's not about blowing up a
Correct.
giant world-ending Death Star in this one. This time, the climax isn't about this big spaceship battle. It's about these these hallways, the white hallways, and I think by scaling it down, focusing on these personal journeys of the characters, I think it manages to be an even better film than what's already one of the best films of all time.
Yeah, this one doesn't focus so much on the alliance as a whole. It focuses much more on just like staying together as a group.
Absolutely. It's about these heroes just trying to stay alive. It's not about saving the world. Many
Now-
worlds.
Gout.
The way they're bringing Yoda is great because Luke meets this irritating little green creature who's annoying him, eating his food. He's like, I'm looking for a great warrior. And he's like, oh, and then Yoda, he pretends to know, oh, you seek Yoda. And he's down in the hut. He's like, no, I don't have time for you. I don't have time for this. I need to find this great warrior. If you're not going to help me, then so be it. And then, the ghost of Obi-Wan comes and he realizes that this little green guy, this little small green guy, this is the Great Warrior Yoda. No, seriously, I thought
Yeah.
that was such a great message, and a great reveal, great
It
surprise.
really shows the power of the Jedi.
Absolutely, and
that
the
used
power
to
of the
be.
Force too.
Now, one thing I like when Luke is with Yoda is when he goes into the caves and he has the vision
Mm,
with him and Darth Vader,
yeah.
which wasn't only like a personal thing for Luke. It was also foreshadowing for later in the film.
For the big twist.
Mm.
As a kid watching that, when the mask explodes, see Luke's face. I didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I always wondered as a kid, who is that?
Yeah, as a kid, I recognized a lot of the characters just on the hair because it was so different from what I would see as a kid.
Yeah.
And then it's just his face. I'm like, who are you? I didn't know who it was.
So let's talk about the twist, because at this point, everybody knows the twist. We're not spoiling this for anyone.
It's one of the most famous movie lines ever. Luke, I'm your father. Well, lines, no, I'm your father.
Anyone who hasn't seen it, I'm sorry. Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad.
There you go.
I
Deal
think
with it.
it's one of the, biggest and most famous plot twists of all time. It's definitely one of the best.
It's been parodied so many times too, which is great.
Oh god, yeah. Everything parodies
It really shows how much it's sunk into pop culture.
Oh yeah, you can say that for all of Star Wars, but yes, that scene in particular too. It's one of the most famous scenes of the whole saga. Great reveal.
It was fantastic, and Luke's reaction was amazing.
Yeah, good acting from Mark Hamill.
So, Episode 5 was definitely darker, much more character-driven, scaled down.
It was very different from the first film, which is great. That's what sequels should be. They should take characters and put them in really new situations. I love that, and I think Episode 5 is one. The Empire Strikes Back is maybe like the definitive movie sequel. At least
Absolutely.
yeah. I think it's everything a sequel should be.
So let's head on over to Episode 6.
Let's wrap this up, or at least
Return
wrap
of
the
the Jedi.
episodes up.
Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, is Luke's training is like 95% complete, and he has to go rescue Han Solo from the Tatooine crime lord Jabba the Hutt, who we're introduced to in the special edition version of A New Hope. So basically, once they get once they get Han, they have to meet up with the Rebel fleet to assault the new Death Star, which was built in 5 years.
4.
And- excuse me, Ricky. And attempt to kill Darth Vader and the Emperor.
Now,
Alex, what do you think of Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi?
I'll be honest, I'm going to get hate for this from you and whoever watches this. This one is my least favorite of the original trilogy. I was kind of bored, even as a kid, for 60% of it.
Well, to be honest, I think there are a lot of people who would agree with you. I think this is looked down as maybe the weakest of the trilogy, but I personally think it's every bit as good as the first two. I love it. I love
mean-
Episode 6.
So, my problem is that they seem to have scaled this one down, at least for the first half.
Yeah.
Like, they scaled A New Hope down they scaled down Episode 5 from Episode 4, but they also scaled it up at the same time. And then with Episode 6, for the first half, all they do is scale down. Like,
Then-
you needed something very strong to follow up The Empire Strikes Back, and you don't get that until the second half of the film. So even as a kid, I was pretty bored with it.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with. I thought episodes. I don't have many problems with it. I don't know. I like Episode 6. It's a good movie.
I mean,
Great movie.
My biggest,
Outstanding
it's a
movie.
great movie, absolutely. But my biggest issue is that these little teddy bear creatures that George Lucas came up with, the Ewoks, defeat the stormtroopers, and I believe it's mentioned that they're like the elite stormtroopers in charge of looking after the Death Star, and they get defeated by a bunch of little teddy bears with sticks.
So let's talk about the final confrontation between Darth Vader and Luke, which once again proves the Empire is not very good at winning anything.
Yeah. So they have the final fight, and I think one of my my favorite scene in the whole saga. You get Luke's hiding from Vader. Vader's taunting him, trying to get him to reveal himself. he threatens Leia, who's his daughter actually, Luke's sister, and if you won't turn to the dark side, then maybe she will. And then at that point, Luke snaps. He ignites his lightsaber, yells Vader, shrieks Vader's name, and then starts wailing on him. I think that might be my favorite moment of the 6 films.
And then he finally gets him down and he chops his hand off. And he sees that he has the same robotic hand he does.
Yeah. There's a lot of limb chopping off in Star Wars.
Which is where the foreshadowing from the cave scene in Episode 5 goes to, where he could be Vader.
Yes,
Same type of person.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, I thought the Death Star fight was you can argue it's repetitive, but I think that what makes it work is that it is not the main focus of the movie like Episode 4 was. It's just like
They have 3 different sequences happening at once.
Exactly, and this time it's operational. It's a much bigger threat.
What was great is before Luke and Vader start fighting, and you have the Endor battle going on, the space battle outside the Death Star going on, and the like really, really tense conversation between Luke and the Emperor going on.
Absolutely.
They balance each other out so well, because with the scenes with Luke talking, you can see the space battle going on in the background, and you can also see Endor in the background. So you know all of this is happening at once, and the conversation is so tense that it doesn't even like bring down the tension of everything. Like you still feel just as excited as you do while the fight scenes are happening and the conversation's happening.
Absolutely, no, you're right. It was such a great third act. I thought, I loved Episode 6. I thought it was every bit as good as the first 2.
My one issue with the final act is the Death Star has a very, very similar weakness to the first one. It's just this, which is understandable because this one's still under construction, so I can accept that there are still openings that lead to the core.
Right. But it's different this time. This time they have to physically go in the Death Star, and Lando destroys Death Star, and the galaxy gets to live happily ever after until Episode 7.
I did like how they ended it with the funeral of Darth Vader.
That was great. That was a good scene
because he redeemed himself in the end.
Yeah, and Luke, his son burns his body, or at least the Vader costume. His body disappeared.
Yeah.
But no, it's overall I think it's maybe the best film trilogy of all time, or
hands down.
And it's part of the greatest film saga of all time. For Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Alex, rating?
10 out of 10.
5.
What?
10. I'm kidding.
All right.
Episode 5?
10.
10.
Episode 6?
10.
10. Wow. So the first 3 films of our show to get perfect 10 out of 10 scores. Average scores.
I'm not even ashamed.
No. Why should you be?
I mean, best movie trilogy of all time.
Absolutely. Best movie trilogy of all time.
So that about wraps up the original trilogy.
All right.
We'll be right back after this commercial break with a little bit more on Star Wars.
Welcome back to the last segment of our Star Wars Christmas special. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that regard Star Wars as a whole. Alex, you want to start us off with your theory?
Let's just go over a few side notes. It's not my theory. It's an internet theory.
All right, well, what do you have to say?
It's that Jar Jar Binks, and I know I'm pissing people off just by saying the name, it is this theory that in the prequels, he is actually the main bad guy instead of Palpatine. And I know you're laughing already, but hear me out at least.
All right.
So there was this video I watched online, and it basically shows all these sequences
in The Phantom Menace and the little bit that he's around in Attack of the Clones.
And even in Revenge of the Sith. And whenever something like really important is going down or someone's trying to be convinced, you see in the background Jar Jar Binks just like doing what Jedis do when they do a mind trick. He just kind of waves his hand a little bit and you see him mumbling.
All right. I skimmed through the article you sent me, and I think it's interesting, and in some ways it makes sense.
And in the Gungan fight sequence in The Phantom Menace, when he's like accidentally killing all these droids by looking like an idiot, it's incredibly similar to an actual martial arts fighting style that we see in Drunken Master with Jackie Chan. It like move for move, it's the exact same thing. And then, why would he still be around as one of Palpatine's right-hand guys if he's such a bumbling idiot? Why would they keep him around? Because he's in with Palpatine. If anything, he's in charge of Palpatine. He's a puppet.
He's in charge of Palpatine,
Yep.
Jar Jar Binks.
They're working together, and he is the more powerful one, so he puts Palpatine on the spot instead of himself. Kylo Ren is Jar Jar Binks, calling it now. Misa gonna avenge you, Annie.
All right. What I was starting to say earlier is it's interesting, sort of, and makes sense. Oh, it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, fair enough.
But if Jar Jar is a powerful Sith, why didn't they reveal it? Why was there no payoff?
Because what was gonna happen, remember I told you, George Lucas presented a script to Disney when he was still working with them after he sold the rights to Star Wars. He presented a script. We don't even know what was in that script, and they rejected it. It could have been Jar Jar Binks was the bad guy all along, and George Lucas has just been messing with everyone since 1999.
That would have all right. Maybe in an alternate world that could have been awesome. However, that stuff was from what we described, you can tell that Episode 1's not a very intelligent movie. So
Fair enough.
I think that's way too smart and subtle for that movie. And I think you and all the fans want to think that Jar Jar Lucas couldn't create anything that bad, and Jar Jar really had an alternate purpose. Although I think he does, the awfulness of Jar Jar does fit in with a lot of the other awfulness of that film.
The Kylo Ren Jar Jar Binks theory is kind of out the window because J.J. Abrams, and I quote, "If he's in this, I will have his bones in the desert."
I saw that, yeah. Hey, maybe it's linked to surprise.
Yeah, Kylo Ren's Jar Jar Binks. You never know.
Luke Skywalker's Kylo Ren.
Jar Jar Binks is Luke Skywalker. Oh my God. Let's get back to reality and talk about the special editions. My God.
All right. That was weird.
So you have
All right,
you and most fans have a problem with all the changes George Lucas has done.
There were two changes I very much liked. Empire Strikes Back, when the Emperor has his cameo, they got the regular Emperor actor to do it. So I love that. I love that guy. And the last scene of Six, the celebration, they put in a much better musical score from John Williams, and I thought that was better. The rest of the stuff, just leave it alone, man. I feel like George Lucas, he doesn't understand the scenes. 5 and 6 weren't even his movies. Other people directed them who have since died, and two other guys. And he has a very limited mental focus. He looks at the scenes Luke, after the "I Am Your Father" scene, Vader says, "Join me or die." Luke jumps off to die, and so he sacrificed himself, and it's just him falling in the movie. But George Lucas is like, "Wait a minute, he's falling, and there's no scream. I can put a screen in there," and it's that kind of half ruins. He doesn't understand the purpose. This is Luke sacrificed himself. In Episode 4, when R2's hiding from the Sand People, Tusken Raiders, George Lucas added 10 more rocks in between him, and his mind said, "Wait, they can still see him. I'm gonna add 10 more rocks." But then, if you can see, we have a picture here. You can see that there's no physical way he could have gone back there. The little body doesn't make it that shape, and I think I mentioned that quote earlier that. He makes these things we love, but then doesn't understand why we love them. And I think there's a quote from him in the special features. In all the special features of the films, you see that he wants to do everything his way. He is very passionate about it. I think one of the things as I mentioned that quote before, he doesn't understand he makes these amazing things, doesn't understand why we love him so much. And I think he said in special features that he talked about the romance between Anakin and Padme in episode 2. And he said, this is the first real Star Wars love story. I mean, all that we saw before is Han Leia sort of flirting in Empire.
That's the Star Wars love story.
And it really is. It is. It's very compelling, deep love story. And Lucas just thinks a love story involves you have to have a giant waterfall and a romantic space getaway. He doesn't understand that's the subtlest things that can lead to love. He doesn't understand what makes these films great. And I think you can really see that with the Metachlorians.
It's again very philosophical, Ricky.
Thank you. I appreciate
I
it.
just want to mention one change he made that I like
All right.
about the original trilogy.
Yeah, sure.
Is in A New Hope, before he came up with that whole weird alien language thing that everyone uses. There's this one shot, or a couple shots of like the engineers setting up the Death Star laser, and you could see English writing. Smallest change, he just covered that up with the new language he came up with.
Yeah. Nice.
It's a nice little immersion thing.
Yeah, so there are a few good changes, but most of this and tomorrow, we're going to see the release of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
I'm going to see the release of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
I understand.
You won't, because I have tickets.
You do not. Gotta say it once.
Talk about the film, Alex.
Anyway,
Force Awakens will come out tomorrow, December 17th. Excuse me.
Today's
December 18th.
December 17th. Tomorrow's 18th.
It's coming out at midnight. And I am so hyped. You don't even know.
Oh, I know, because I'm really hyped myself. I think I've waited 10 years for the next Star Wars film. It's finally here.
Where do you think they could possibly take the story with everything that's happened in the original trilogy? Like, where do you think Han and Leia will be at this point?
Well, they're probably married. A lot of people think that the new girl is their daughter. Especially in the trailers, they say, like, you know, I saw your eyes, I know your eyes, and they keep coming back between her and Han. But I don't know. A lot of people think Luke has gone evil. That's why they keep not showing him.
Well, there was an article a few days ago that he's going to be in Episode 8, right?
I think so.
Okay. Well, thank God.
Let's see whether he's a hero or villain. Let's see.
I want to know if they're going to like put him in Episode 7 very heavily, or he's just going to be like way in the background, just watching what's happening and deciding whether or not he has to come back. If he's in hiding.
They've been keeping a lot of stuff in this film secret, but I think it's the latter. I don't think he's going to play a big part because he's being kept, for reasons unknown, he's being kept hidden from the posters and trailers.
Which
so
is great. I love the way they're advertising this.
It's really
so different from what a lot of films do now, where they have this big reveal that they hint at in the first few teasers, and then they just drop it in the first like official trailer. Like the Man of Steel trailer that came out, the Batman v Superman trailer that came out.
That was
last
amazing.
week,
Such a great trailer.
When they show that
Doomsday
is in it. I feel like that's going to be one of the biggest, like they brought out the two big reveal scenes, Doomsday and Wonder Woman.
Well, Wonder Woman
we know she was going to be in it, but I mean, if I'm going to see the film, I want to be surprised when she shows up, not know like, oh, this is when she's about to show up.
No, I'm through the roof excited for Force Awakens. I think it's going to be maybe one of the best Star Wars movies ever. That's what it's looking to be. That's what it's looking like to be. I think, and the marketing is a very refreshing change from the very oversaturated, spoiler-filled trailers we're used to.
All right, so we're excited. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, drops tonight. So I think that's about all we have time for today on MSV Movie Mania.
I mentioned we'll come back in February.
Yeah, we will be back in February. I want to thank all of you for joining us on our Star Wars Christmas special. Our winter break is beginning tomorrow, so we will unfortunately not be back until February. To everyone who has seen our show, and to any fans we might have picked up along the way, thank you for sticking with us through the past few episodes. We promise each show will only get better from here. As always, I'm Alex.
I'm Ricky.
Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We will see you in 2016 right here on MSV Movie Mania.
You better watch out.
You better not cry.
You better not call on Yoda's Jedi.
The Empire is coming to town. We have a Death Star.
We've tested it twice.
Tracking down rebels and ending their lives. The Empire is coming to town.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
We see you when you're training. We know you use the Force. We know about your sister now. And we think it's kind of gross.
You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not call on Yoda's Jedi.
The Empire is coming to town.
Ah, that's nice. And I think it's gonna be good. I think we're gonna have a good Christmas, a good Star Wars.
Oh, it's gonna be great, Ricky. It will be absolutely
What is that?
fantastic.
Is that a lightsaber? Ah! Get out of here! Get out of here!
Tree.